The Justice Department says it's cracking down on China's so-called Operation Fox Hunt. The little-known operation is Beijing's self-described anti-corruption campaign targeting Chinese fugitives living in other countries, including the U.S. Last month, a federal jury in New York convicted 3 men of stalking a New Jersey family on behalf of the Chinese government. Among the defendants, Michael McMahon, a former New York City police officer turned private investigator. Prosecutors say the years-long plot involved targeting a former Chinese official and his family living in the U.S. McMahon says he had no idea this job had any ties to the Chinese government, and the Department of Justice, he says, used him as a scapegoat. Joining me now is Michael McMahon. Michael, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Anxious to get your side of the story here. What happened, Michael? Why do you believe you were wrongly convicted in this case?
So I conducted legal PI work, private investigation work, in New Jersey in 2016. I was hired by a translation company, and they had a client out of China who had a family business, construction business, that an employee had stolen millions of dollars from them. Information that we received, he was located in New Jersey. So I hired 2 retired NYPD detectives. We did background checks. We did surveillance for 5 days, 1 day in 2016 and 4 days in 2017. We notified the local police on each and every time we did surveillance. We located the individual, sent the report to our client, and then 4 years later, in 2020, the FBI came to my house, banged on my door with 12 agents, surrounded my house, and they arrested me for working for the Chinese government. I thought it was a joke. I was like, there's no way, not me. I haven't done anything wrong in my life. I was real curious about why me. And, here I am today. I had a trial, I was convicted, and I'm shocked and, completely upset over this whole thing.
And let me ask you about the case.
Back, there was 2 lanes to my...
Sure. No, I was just going to say, prosecutors say
there were
part of the plot included recording and harassing this individual's daughter. I guess this was the individual that was the focus of your investigative work. Apparently there was, this is what the prosecutors say, taping a threatening note to his front door, flying
that had
his
nothing
elderly...
to do with me. That happened in California.
Okay. And apparently there was an attempt to fly
the elderly
father to what's going on with all of that? That sounds like some heavy-handed stuff. Yeah. Maybe you can explain.
Yeah, I knew the father was coming here. I knew the father was coming here to New Jersey, but what they told me was that he was coming here to ask the son to return the millions of dollars that he stole from the construction company. So that was my only involvement with the father. I had nothing to do with the daughter out in California. I wasn't in California. That had nothing to do with me at all. So there were 2 lanes to my case. There was a civil lane and there was a criminal lane. The Chinese were involved in the criminal lane. I had no idea what was going on in that lane. My job was civil assets, location of assets, find LLCs, find homes where he owned or lived. And that was my involvement. My involvement was civil asset location only. I had no idea what was going on with the criminal stuff. And I found out about that after my arrest when they sent me discovery. And I couldn't believe what their goals were and their plans were. Because I had no idea they had goals to repatriate this guy back to China. That was never told to me. I saved all my text messages. I saved all my emails. The Chinese deleted all their stuff. They had encrypted apps all amongst themselves, and they deleted everything. Well, they never told me to delete everything. I still have all my stuff.
Yeah, and apparently this is such a concern for the Justice Department and I guess the Biden administration. Earlier this year, federal investigators sent out a notice warning U.S.-based private investigators and others to look out for repressive foreign governments engaging in these types of harassment and intimidation campaigns. We're showing a screenshot of it right now. It includes steps to take to keep yourself from, quote, being used as a pawn in a repressive foreign plot, including looking into the person or hiring or company hiring you and being mindful of members of the diaspora community being potential targets. I mean, does this warning suggest that some in your profession are in fact unaware that they may be used as pawns by the Chinese government?
Absolutely 100% correct. No PIs were ever made aware of these operations. The government, FBI, knew about these operations in 2014, 2015. I was hired in 2016, so they knew about these operations, but they kept the information secret to themselves. They should have warned PIs in 14, 2015, 16 to let us know, hey, listen, this could happen to any of the PIs out there. Just be aware of these operations, and if you hear or see anything suspicious, let us know. When I was arrested in 2020, my first reaction was, oh my God, the PI business is in peril. Something's going to happen to another PI, and we can't let that happen. So my wife was the one who was contacting numerous PI associations across the country and letting them know about these fox hunt operations. Why is my wife calling numerous PIs and letting them know? That should have been the job of the FBI.
Well, and I
Why
guess
is my wife doing that and warning people?
And you spent so many years as a private investigator. I guess one of the questions that I had looking at this case is why weren't you able to sort out that perhaps you were being used by the Chinese government to harass, intimidate members of the Chinese diaspora? I mean, isn't that something that a private investigator, private detective like yourself should be able to figure out?
We had no red flags. There was nothing out of the ordinary. I've done hundreds of cases, surveillance, background checks. This was typical of what I did hundreds of times. Nothing stood out to me as wrong, ethical, criminal. I was never asked to do anything criminal. And if I did, I would notify local police. I would notify the FBI. And, nothing stood out to me. I hired 2 NYPD detectives. They were with me the whole time. They did background checks as well. They were with me on surveillance. I spoke to 2 active federal agents during this time. Nothing stood out to them. No one heard of Fox Hunt. No one heard of these operations. So there were no red flags.
Yeah. Well, Michael, I know that you're going to be appealing your case. Please keep us posted on how the case develops. And obviously, we'd love to have you back on if there are big developments that come in the future.
Yeah.
But Michael McMahon, thanks very much for your time. We appreciate it.